Hey, John here. Emerging technologies can reduce time for manual tasks. What about manual tasks inherent in putting together an RFP? Today, we look at applying tech to proposal creation. Hit the music, Manny.
Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, where industry leaders share insights on innovation with a focus on reducing cost and improving security for federal technology. If you like the Federal Tech Podcast, please support us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcast.
Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, a podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today is Brian Seagraves, Chief Technology Officer, Deepwater Point and Associates. How you doing, Brian?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having me here.
You're probably looking around here saying it's a strange place for a podcast, isn't it?
I spend a lot of time in breweries, so actually I'm comfortable here.
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't tell our audience that we are recording this from Caboose Brewery in lovely downtown Vienna, Virginia. We're back because we did a fundraiser here back in the fall for Women in Technology. We had so much fun, I had to come back and get another beer or get another podcast out, something or other. Okay, enough of this levity. Let's jump right in here. We're talking about RFPs and procurement and proposals. So, Brian, you've been in the business a long time. I saw your LinkedIn profile. So what are the challenges facing the government contracting community in the current procurement environment?
Thankfully, there's a budget this year, but it came out halfway through the year, so government's going to try to spend a whole year of funding on new initiatives in half a year, let's say the next 5 months. And so that's one of the challenges right there, and it's kind of a multiplier on what's the typical problem. The typical problem when you are a company that wins a government-wide acquisition contract or a multiple award IDIQ vehicle from agencies, the typical problem is you've won a fire hose of opportunities that's going to start feeding your company. That's great. You got great opportunities, but you know what? You can't bid every opportunity in there. And some of these like GSA multiple award schedule, special item number 54151S or 334111, these are very high volume. And I'm talking about 20, 30,000 announcements a year coming out on those things. You have to be able to filter these things and find the ones that fit your interests and capabilities. And then place your bets on the right opportunities. So the bigger it's being multiplied now by the fact that we're doing a year's budget in half a year. So a lot of companies are going to be very busy trying to get quotes out the door in the next few months.
So let me do the math here. This is basic second grade math. So annually is 12 months. So if it's 27,000 annually, it's being compressed into 5 months. And so we'll get thousands and thousands every month. And so when people go into work at 9 a.m., they just don't go home? Or, how can you walk away from all that work?
How can you walk away? That's right. How do you not have fear of missing out on that? Some great opportunity that's come out. I didn't catch it because I wasn't watching eBay, every day or every minute of the day, right? That's one of the problems that you have when you have these vehicles is you got to log into that eBuy or the NITAG portal or the Army's chess portal, and you got to be monitoring these things and watch for something coming out.
Okay, here's my answer. We'll just hire 10,000 people, and they'll... Wait a minute, at what point in time does this get to be... Where do you judge between hiring people, not hiring people, and automating and missing opportunities? We talked about automating things in the beginning here, so I don't know how else or what better would be a candidate for automation than this fire hose coming at you.
It's a perfect candidate for automation for several reasons. First of all, yes, you can hire people to do it, and everybody is doing it with people. Even if they don't designate a group, the fact of the matter is if you're not using technology to filter these things, you are using people. And if you don't have let's call it a GWAC Center of Excellence, but you have these vehicles, that just means you're distributing the problem into little places all throughout the company, and everybody's doing a little bit. You're not then consolidating your visibility of the pipeline off your vehicles, so you're definitely missing opportunities. So if you have a, let's say, like you had that number there of one of the 20-some thousand announcements a year, that's a couple of people to evaluate all of those things. And what does it mean to evaluate? Well, you got to log in eBuy a few times a day. Then you got to download things. Then you're going to try to use keyword searching, on your Windows machine or in your Mac Finder to try to find things that have the keywords that what your company does. And that'll cause you to open up certain files and do a quick scan of the scope. And the ones that you do a quick scan, they look like what you do. Then you spend a couple hours reading them. And then you get to the end, you find out, oh, crap, it's set aside for somebody. It's set aside for woman-owned. I'm not woman-owned. Or this requires a top secret security clearance, and I don't have a top secret clearance. I can't bid it. So all of that work is being wasted. So what we have done is put together a product that integrates a couple of different artificial intelligence capabilities with practitioner excellence. That's what we at Deepwater Point do. We do a couple of things. Our main business is we provide agency experts. They know the customer. They know the culture and the context of an opportunity. They have a network they can use to get up to date and get intelligence on what the customer really wants to do and what's the information that's not in the solicitation. So that's our main business, consulting with agency experts. And the other main business is practitioner excellence. We have people that have been in business development, capture, solution architects, general managers and federal contractors for decades. And what we've done in North Star, we codified those two capabilities into software. We have taken the criteria that somebody uses to decide if something fits them, and we wired it in the software so it can do that analysis automatically in minutes.
GWAC North Star. I want to get into it, but I want to bring up some more practical matters. And this is just normal human beings. Not everyone hits a home run. Not everyone gets on base. And some people strike out all the time. Reminds me of my Little League career. But there are people that spend what they call good money to get a spot on a GWAC and never get any work. By the way, they have $300,000 or $400,000 payroll and get zero. I mean, you're not going to get promoted by doing that, are you, Brian?
Yeah, actually, we sit on a few advisory boards for different federal contractors.
Oh.
And we've got a bunch of, we have hundreds of federal contractor companies as customers. They complain about the inefficiency of business development, how expensive it is to win something.
Oh.
Okay. And yes, it's human beings. You hire a business developer, a new guy in your organization, and it takes you 2 years to figure out that they're not quite what you need. But that's 2 years of lost time before you realize you're not winning. This guy isn't bringing you into the places you need to be. So technology is a big part of offsetting that waste.
Okay, so Deepwater Point and Associates sees a problem, okay? And they come up with a solution where they tap technology and AI, and they call it GWAC North Star. So how'd you start, and why'd you start, and what are you just about to release it, or have you released it, or what's happened with this product? Okay,
so the idea came from actually before I was with Deepwater Point. I worked for a small business, and we put together a joint venture to win the CIO SP3 small business vehicle. And I was a one-man BD shop, and we won it. And then
so you're a GWAC. You got the GWAC.
I got the GWAC, and then I was the dog that caught the car because then there are, oh my gosh, 50, 80 announcements a week that I got to read and I got to filter through to try to find something. And I made promises to my JV team members. If it comes out and it has this in it, that goes to you. If it comes out and has that in it, that goes to you. I couldn't keep my promises because the volume was way bigger than I could handle. And by the way, I had another job of developing business, okay? That's what happens to companies when they win these vehicles. If you're over $1 billion a year, yeah, you can afford some indirect funds to have a bunch of people doing this for you. But why do that? If you don't have a bunch of people doing it, you're missing opportunities. If you do have a bunch of people doing it, you're wasting a lot of money.
At Harvard Business School, they have a sophisticated phrase for this. It's called chicken one day, feathers the next. It's like, yeah. Now I don't know what to do.
That's right.
The dog does catch the car. Huh?
Yeah.
Now how do you even handle that? And the worst case is that you handle it poorly, and then you get a bad reputation. This is like the worst thing possible.
So you asked, what do we have? How do we solve the problem? Okay, so starting in October, we went live in October last year with 7 customers who agreed to be development partners. One multi-billion-dollar a year company, $1 billion a year company, and then the rest of them stepped down from there, 100 million, 20 million, 10 million. And they helped us. We brought out the minimum viable product then, and they helped us add features that would make it even more powerful for customers like them. And we went to general release on March 1st, and now we're taking orders. And it is we're getting a lot of interest. Companies that see it want it, and here's why. What we have done is we have codified practitioner expertise into 25 criteria that are considered when a business developer is figuring out, is this opportunity relevant to my company? Some of those criteria are taxonomies of like scopes of service or mission or agencies. Some of them are factors as small as how long until the RFP is going to come out, how long until the proposal is due, how many key personnel do I have to have, what clearances do I have to have, what certifications do I have to have. All those criteria, we've identified those, and we enable a subscriber to make a profile of themselves with those criteria. And by the way, they can have as many what we call preference matrices as they want. One for each division of the company, one for each solution, one for each account team, one for the company with its mentor-protege partner, as many as they want. And these are different filters for screening out the opportunities that don't fit and scoring the ones that do. And so then what we do is we automatically ingest where we're allowed to, like from eBuy, using an API that eBuy has for the contractors. And where we're not allowed to, we use humans to log in on behalf of the customers. And we ingest everything. We download everything, release it. We do it several times a day. So within hours, we have it processed in the client portal. How do we process it? Here's where the AI comes in, and you'll be interested in this. Number one, we use one AI product to create a semantic analysis of all the attachments. So we're not doing keyword searching because, if you're Adobe and you want to sell Adobe Acrobat, you certainly don't want to know every solicitation that mentions PDF, okay, Adobe PDF. You're going to get everything. So we're using semantic analysis, which enables us to create chunks of the document. So give me all the things about scope. Give me all the paragraphs about mission. Give me all the parts that talk about who the customer is, and so forth. Then we feed those with chunks of those 25 criteria over to OpenAI, GPT-4 Turbo, and we give it a multiple choice question. We say, here's a chunk of the document related to scope. Which of it is it? IT? Is it logistics? Is it aircraft development? Which it falls? It says IT. Okay, within IT, is it software development? Is it network management? Is it seat management? And it answers. It only gets to choose from the factors that we give it, the questions that we give, multiple choice answers. So that way it's very fast and very inexpensive. So what that does is automates reading thousands of documents in minutes so that we can then feed them into a scoring engine, and we produce a mathematical score of how well the solicitation meets each customer's preference matrix.
So the fire hose gets converted into several garden hoses or several hundred garden hoses.
That's right.
You can understand
That's right. We're throwing everything. We're not throwing anything away, actually. Let me take that back. We score things. We give it what's called a druthers score. If I had my druthers,
sophisticated, isn't it?
I would spend my time on something that fits me. It's a very American term. Okay?
Very American. It's a druthers score.
Yeah, we wanted something American. So.
I just want to jump in here. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're raking leaves or the fall, or you want to learn more, you can. There's an article on your site. It's called "My Kingdom for a Horse." I mean, what a title! That's easy to remember. You go to dwpassociates.com, read this article, and it articulates everything that Brian is saying right now, and gives ridiculous details as far as numbers of offers, and this 27,450. They detail it by the minute. This is how many minutes take for this and this, and here's the first filter. Okay, here's a second filter. Here's a third filter. Here's the carbon filter. Finally,
that's right.
You don't get it, and then do it over again. Anyway, I just want to tell people.
And the thing is, as a human, when you're evaluating these things, other things are coming by.
Right.
Okay. So the greatest analogy I can think of for this is I love the old I Love Lucy episodes. Okay. Where Lucy and Ethel get a job in the candy factory.
Yeah.
Okay. And the candy's coming on the conveyor belt, and it's coming faster than they can handle. And they're wrapping one, and three more go by, and they start stuffing it in their mouths and in their pockets, and stuff keeps going by while they deal. That's what actually happens. Okay. I'm dealing with this one in front of me, and three more are going by at the same time as I'm dealing with it. How do I know this is the better one than the one that just went by? So that's what we do for you, is we apply the technology that in minutes, and whenever something is out, what we're promising right now is within a business day, it's scored in your portal. We're beating that. We're beating that. And we're going to get to within minutes by later this year when we get our artificial intelligence finally tuned to be full automatic, don't have to have a human in the loop.
Now we go from Lucy Ricardo to Juan Soto.
Okay.
He's not Cuban, Dominican. And so this is a baseball player, everyone knows Juan Soto, great hitter, but he is known for not swinging at bad balls, stay in the zone. And I think that's when I think of your product. It's like, you're hiring 3 or 4 people to work full time. Don't swing at the bad pitches, or don't pitch at the bad pitches, pitch at the good pitches, or conserve your energy. And that's what Lucy and her friend were doing. They're not conserving their energy. They're jumping for everything, and they get nothing at the end, And so this whole idea of finding out what to hit and then filtering it first. I mean, it can't be done manually anymore. It has to be automated somehow.
The volume is too big for it to be done manually with precision and speed. Okay. Now, this is what I described to you is it's written as software, but artificial intelligence doesn't match human intelligence. Maybe it will in a few years. So right now, what you're really doing with this is we're saying take this easy stuff of finding the key criteria and scoring it, get it off the plate of my business developers so that my people can be out there talking to customers or can take a look at the RFI that came out that's a high fit and get started on it day one, okay, and not spend time reading the things we end up not being able to go after for whatever reason. It doesn't fit us, doesn't fit our interests, don't have the capability. So what that does is giving you more at-bats. You're putting your expensive, more intelligent resources downstream of this process and let them manage what's coming out of this process that's filtered and scored and fits them, and go out and talk to the customer instead of sitting at their desk trying to find things in a pile of opportunities, more coming out like Lucy on the conveyor belt.
Let's talk about this MVP you came up with back in October. When people release MVP, they're always surprised. Oh, I didn't realize that button shouldn't have been there. I didn't know that it was a dead link or something. So what did you learn from the MVP experience? These people are honest with you, obviously. They didn't have a dog in the fight. Your socks smell. So what did you learn from the MVP experience?
We had several of the customers were very helpful to us. And so what we learned is very different needs from the small guys versus the large guys. Okay. Now, the large guys, the multi-billion-dollar company, and I just need to get their permission so I can name them as a customer. They've said they would. I just got to go through the process. They gave us a whole bunch of additional features that we have put into our development roadmap, and we've actually already added some. So, for example, later this month, customers will be able to get notifications. They can create a rule inside the North Star portal to send them an email when something hits a certain score or matches criteria, like I'm monitoring, I'm watching for this one. It was RFI. I want to know when the RFP comes out. They can get a notification in their box. So they don't even have to log in to North Star to know when something critical has come out. It's high scoring. They can see it in their email. They can click it from there. Another is they ask for the capability to tag things. Why am I not pursuing this? Because the GWAC Center wants to be able to collect data to say, we're not bidding enough on this vehicle. We don't think we should rebid it next time. Or this division is not responding to things on the vehicle and all the others are. Why are you not responding to things on the vehicle, right? And so it gives them data to manage their ROI on these vehicles.
So the GWAC North Star is a software as a service. Maybe you can call it AI as a service. It's a service product, isn't it?
It's a service product, software as a service. It has AI embedded in it. Customers never see the AI. It's not trained with customer data. All it's doing is receiving solicitation materials and answering questions about them, and then we even wipe those solicitation materials out. And in case there are any of you security guys listening, we're not feeding any CUI marked information out to these third-party products. We're stripping that out and protecting that. We built North Star to meet the FedRAMP moderate criteria and to protect control unclassified information. Coalfire recently completed a penetration test and software code review for us, and we passed that with flying colors.
Oh, that's good. And I have a lot of documents here in front of me about promoting AI safety and security. Well, you're not the only one who's thinking about this. Another document here from a place called the EO is talking about artificial intelligence and security again. And so this is a hot topic, and what you're doing is you're answering the question preemptively. You're asking before they ask. So, by the way, before you ask, we're secure.
Yep. Yeah. We built this from the start. It's all cloud native. It's all new code developed starting in it was March of last year, and we took the NIST software, the Secure Software Development Framework from NIST, and we followed that to the T right from the start. Engineered the security in there. Now, some of these AI concerns about the safety of AI, certainly there are going to be different applications of AI than what we're doing here. Like to determine whether somebody's eligible for benefits, those are going to have a much more thorough review of how those AI products were built and how they're making decisions or recommending decisions to users than what we're doing here. Here we're just saying, hey, read this and tell me which of the following is in it.
I guess the tale will be told in 1 year when the companies who have subscribed for this service can show significant increase in sales or success or reducing costs with the same amount of sales, but reducing costs is the same thing as increased sales. So it's a pretty easy way to evaluate.
Yes. So we've already had subscribers say, hey, I caught something the day it came out.
Ooh.
And I got started, my team started on it right away. That's not happened before. We're usually 3 or 4 days later. So we're speeding up their decision process. We're enabling their detection of those well-fitting opportunities on day one, so they can start on day one. Now, if you're let's say you have this vehicle and you've got to bring in some small business so you can make your small business plan. You're going to want to make sure that you have the right small business for the particular agency. Maybe there's a small business you can bring on your team that knows this agency, has a great reputation in there, knows the buying customer, has some key knowledge that they can add to your team. That's another reason you want to get started on day one. On day one, let's say an RFI comes out, the agency is thinking about doing something. You can get started on day one and go sign up the best team members, not 2 weeks after everybody else gets started and now the best guys are already on somebody else's team. So a number of reasons why starting on day one is critical.
I was interviewing a software specialist a few weeks back, and we were talking about innovation, and we were talking about reduced code, we were talking about easier system integration, and then he said, John, speed is innovation. I said, never thought that criteria, but it would be in this case. So how are you innovating this year? If we can do things faster, that's innovation just in of itself, because that means more chance of proposal, and also a chance if you didn't catch that announcement, chances are another person may not have caught that announcement either, huh?
That's right. And then there's more speed to be had in this process. So what we're doing is speed of filtering, detecting, right? So you can start on day one. Last year, and we're still underway with some, we've experimented with 5 generative AI proposal writing products from different makers. We're not making our own. We've been sort of testing, piloting from 5 other makers, and they're all very good. Some even better than others. Some do a little bit more injection of your capture strategy into the content, produce better quality content. But all of them, what they do very well is produce a first draft of your proposal based on how you've trained this large language model with your content. Okay, so imagine this: you've got 7 or 8 multiple award schedule SINs and GSA GWACs and so forth, and maybe some IDIQs inside some agencies. You got all these fire hoses coming in. Now Northstar is filtering them for you, detecting the things that fit you right away, notifying you when they come out. What if you could click a button and send a solicitation into your generative AI product, and then you have a team there that turns that first draft into your final proposal very quickly? So there's a paradigm shift happening here. A lot of companies will say, okay, we're not going to touch anything if we haven't talked to the customer. We want to know the context. We want to have the culture of the agency. We want to understand the competitive environment. And if my BD people aren't in there calling on the agency, I don't want to touch it. Okay, so if you are a multi-billion-dollar company and you have that luxury, great. But if you're under $1 billion company, you actually, something slips to the right, you got to fill that hole with another opportunity. How do you do that? Well, opportunities are coming out every day on your vehicles. But you still need that culture, that context, that customer intelligence.
And that's what Deepwater provides,
the culture. That's right.
So that's the human part of the AI.
That's the human part. So what we're going to be adding later this year, perhaps with a third-party partner, is matching of our agency experts to the opportunities that have a high score in customers' pipelines, so that we can, you can have a little flashing icon there that says Deepwater Point Insight available. So let's step back, say, all right, so you're not bidding this because you didn't have the context, you never talked to the customer, but it's a great opportunity otherwise. Let us close that gap with some consulting. And I'll give you a case in point for where that's been done before on a very large scale. You probably know the program JEDI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you know how there was all this kerfluffle about, this looks like it's wired for AWS, right? But AWS didn't end up winning it. Now, AWS spent almost 3 years shaping this opportunity, educating the DoD from the leadership on down into the services about the cloud, and prototyping and piloting free pilots of things in the cloud to demonstrate how the cloud could change the paradigm for compute inside the DoD. Along comes Microsoft and wins it at the end. You know how they did that? They brought in agency experts, proxies for the customer to close their intelligence gap after the RFP came out. And they won it. They snatched victory from the jaws of AWS there. So the point is, yes, it's the best if you do your own BD, but that's not exclusively how it has to happen. You can close the gap. Maybe not quite as well, but pretty darn good.
Okay, I'm taking my notes. We've talked about Lucy Ricardo and Juan Soto and all kinds of people in this interview, ostensibly about proposals and RFPs. I'd like to see what happens in the next 3 months. I want to see, I love this idea of an MVP and alter and change and pivot and see what works, doesn't work, because those are the companies that are the most flexible, are the ones who's going to win, especially in deploying AI to any solution. And unfortunately, Brian, we are running out of time here. I'd like to thank my guest, Brian Seagraves, Chief Technology Officer, Deepwater Point Associates. And any of the websites we mentioned, just pop it into the show notes page. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks for listening to the Federal Tech Podcast. If you like the Federal Tech Podcast, please support us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.